Why do you think there's higher rates of
And
crime in the black community? Do you think that it's because of a cultural or a social environment? I mean, history obviously can play a role there. Or do you think that there's something biological, something specific to black people that make it so that they are more likely to commit crime?
that is, dude, that is such a tough one. Like,
No, it's
I
not. The
honestly,
fact that it's a tough question for you is very, very concerning.
hey, what up, man?
Hello, you said we talked before.
Yeah, I'm sure once you hear me talk for a second, you'll be like, ah, yeah, I talked to that guy.
Oh, I've talked to you like so. Didn't I just talk to you again?
About like maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Okay. I do get annoyed with you. That's true. Um, so can you explain to me how racism is a myth, please? Because that's a incredible claim. Did like the
I was kind of
MythBusters come out with a
limited on.
new? Well, hold on. Did like the MythBusters come out with a new episode where they proved racism a myth, or what? What's the deal?
Well, I mean, the problem is we use racism as a talking point for so much, just like we used abortion and all that shit. Systemic racism. I mean, explain that to me. How does it apply today? You know?
Right. Well, I remember our last conversation where I was trying to explain how black people are sentenced longer compared to
Oh
white
yeah,
people for committing the same crime, and then we got into a big um, argument about whether or not it really was the same crime, which kind
yeah.
of demanded on your part the assumption that like black people are just committing worse crimes consistently. Which I know we had a big disagreement there. I've kind of already
Well,
explained though systemic
have
racism.
you
Sorry.
have you actually read the studies on it and how
I
it's
read a study with
how
you on the call, and it talked about how they went in depth in finding out and being as sure as possible that it was as similar a crime as possible, and it
we
still wasn't
didn't
good
go
enough for
into
you.
that.
We
We
did.
absolutely didn't.
We did. You
And
can go look at the
we also
VOD, or if
didn't
I
go
post the debate,
into
you can go watch that. Your
we
amnesia is
we
acting
also
up.
didn't go into we also didn't go into like how broad the studies were, because it's done over America, and as I hope
It's
you
not just
and
like here's a
your
black guy that committed robbery, here's a white guy that committed robbery. Oh, the black guy got 12 years in prison and the white guy got 11. Racism, that's not how it's done. Usually it is comparing
well,
prior
could I
records,
speak?
it's in the same area. They take other things into account as well.
No, because it's done broadly. It's done across the United States. It doesn't differ between states. And as we all know, states have different laws, different jurisdictions have different laws. So you could have a black guy charged for one crime in, I don't know, say Arizona, and a white guy charged for something in, I don't know, Vermont. And of course, it's going to be different because the laws are different. The sentencing is different.
Right. And
It's
I,
just
I
like,
understand that, but usually it's not just comparing everybody in America. Usually there's a little bit more to it. So here's one that says a vast racial gap in death penalty cases, new study finds. So let's see what this said specifically.
okay, well, if black people are mostly the majority of people who are being charged with murder, then of course they're
No,
going
no,
to be
no.
the
It's
ones
not.
on
No,
death
no, no,
row
no, no. Stop.
most.
It's not just like more black people sentenced to death. It's compared to white people. When you have a black person who's committed a crime compared to a white person who's committed a crime, it's more likely for the black person to get the death penalty as compared to the white guy. So I'm looking through this though to give you more specifics. Um, let me see.
And
Um,
when the study was done in 2013 or 2014 or something like that. So also things have changed dramatically.
right, of course. Um,
That was 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
study examined more than 2,000 murders in Georgia. This one's pretty old, from 1973. Okay, I think there's a newer.
Yeah.
I think there's a newer one though that built on this. Controlled for 230 variables. Um, so there has been some that have argued he didn't consider every variable. However, few question his bottom line conclusion, and other studies have confirmed it. Let's see, here's a 2014 update. In 1990, the General Accounting Office, now called the Government Accountability Office, reviewed 28 studies and determined that 23 of them found that the race of the victim influenced the likelihood of being charged with capital murder or receiving a death sentence. This finding was remarkably consistent across data sets, states, data collection, methods, and analytic techniques. A 2014 update came to a similar conclusion. The new study, the product of exhaustive research, supplied the missing information. It found that 22 of the 972 defendants convicted of killing a white victim were executed, as compared with 2 of the 1,503 defendants convicted of killing a black victim. The new study also confirmed just how rare executions are, which is good. A more general and less granular study compared to data sets, but we don't need to get into the more minuscule ones. I think what this is just getting at, though, is that it's been now demonstrated for decades, since the 1970s at least, into 2014, into 2017, that race is playing a large role in influencing whether or not this person will get the death penalty. And I think that that's a pretty serious thing.
Well, the funny thing though too, when you bring death penalty up, is when's the last time somebody's actually been executed, especially in like say California, where there is a death penalty. Nobody's been executed in freaking years, isn't it? You
No,
just get put on death row.
executions still take place pretty frequently. I mean,
When's
yeah,
the
they're
last time it's
rare
taken
generally
place?
speaking, but I mean, it's still going to be. When was the last execution?
Yeah. I mean, you just
January
get put on
16th,
death row.
2021. 2021.
Okay. And
That's
that was one person.
That was the most recent. You asked for what was the most recent example. It was 2021.
Okay.
So hold on. No, no,
So
no, no,
you
no, no,
got
no. Stop. This
one.
is why I get frustrated, is because you have now completely jumped past the argument I'm trying to make, and now you're trying to argue that, well, the death penalty doesn't really happen that often
But
anyway. When it does, it's
you're
more
talking
likely
over
that
me.
black people will get sentenced to death, and that race is
No,
playing a
you're
role there, and
talking
you're
over
ignoring
me.
this.
You're being totally disingenuous because the study that you just read, like, oh, 900 and blah 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 blah, and it's like, okay, so there was one execution a year ago.
I don't care about
One.
how frequently this happens. What matters is
Well,
that
shouldn't
when
that
you
matter?
No, not for the sake of this argument. When we are arguing as to whether or not there is systemic racism at play, and then you have white people compared to black people who've committed the same crimes and have similar priors, if not the same priors, ideally, and that race is playing a role into influencing the decision as to whether or not this person is going to be sentenced to death, that demonstrates a degree of subconscious bias, which plays
Okay,
into systemic
answer
racism. Because
answer me
people
then.
who are hold on, because people who are subconsciously racist doesn't mean they're overt evil racist. It's we all have certain subconscious biases. Subconscious biases play a role in how people make decisions in, say, the criminal justice system. That is a system that is now empirically proven to disproportionately negatively affect black people. So there is systemic racism in the criminal justice system.
Okay, three things. Okay, first, what race was the guy that was executed? I'm guessing it was probably black,
Why
but
does this
and
matter?
that's not a racist thing. I'm black, so number two, what did he do? What was the extent of the crime? Not just the crime, but what did he actually do in that crime? Was it just just a murder out of passion? Because it would have to be murder to be executed. You know, um, was it a crime of passion? Obviously not, because you don't get the death sentence for that. Uh, okay, so it was most likely murder. What did he do? What exactly did he
Hold
do?
on. Can I ask you something? Do you think that what I'm saying right now is that the most recent death penalty was a black guy and that proves racism? Do you think that that's what I'm saying right now?
Well, it seems like that's what you're saying.
Okay, let me reiterate what I'm saying here, okay? No. I'm saying that statistically speaking, okay, if you have a large group of black people compared to a large group of white people, both of which have committed crimes that warrant a possible death sentence, that if they are black, the race influences the decision as to whether or not they will be sentenced to death row. So the fact that it's been demonstrated that race of the victim, or excuse me, race, oh wait, actually, you know what? Hold on. I was I read this wrong. Let me correct myself. So this is actually the race of the victim influenced it. So if they were somebody who killed a black person, that person was less likely to get a death sentence than if somebody killed another white person. So this study doesn't actually demonstrate exactly what I was trying to find, but even so, we do know that there's massive gaps there. So I don't know like how exactly you're sort of sidestepping this. I'm not talking about the last guy. You asked me for an example. I gave that to you. I'm talking about statistics
No,
here.
no, you're the one who brought up death row, though. Remember?
I brought
I
up death
didn't bring up
sentence.
death
You said
row.
it's not that common. You asked when the last time was. I said 2021. And now you said, so was the guy who was just executed black? And I said that has nothing to do with my
No,
argument.
but you initially brought up death, or not death row, but the death sentence. You initially brought that up. I was just responding to that.
Okay.
And as far as the victim being white or victim being black, well, we all know. Well, obviously, we don't all know is that uh, white people are killed by black people more than black people are killed by white people.
I don't know if that's
I mean,
true.
that's. I
Usually
think that was.
no, the most
I think that
the
was one of the arguments that I brought up, possibly that I brought up
on average
in
people are
chat.
victimized by like people they live among. So if you have a group of white people living together, then there's going to be white
Well,
people
that's
committing
not what I'm
crime
saying.
against white people. It's
You're
not
being
like
disingenuous.
no, I'm not. I'm saying that generally and on average, it's completely normal for victims of crime to be victimized by perpetrators who are the same race as them. It's not like
But
black people are
you're
going. No, no, no,
responding
stop.
to
It's not
something
like
that I
black people
didn't
are going.
say.
It's not like black people are going out targeting white people for whatever reason. And even
You're
more so,
responding to
this is a
something I didn't say.
hold on.
I
This
didn't
is
say anything about that.
okay. This is a sidestep again. So here's another one I found. This one is a little bit
Yes,
more
by
updated.
you.
Okay. The report from the Death Penalty Information Center demonstrates that black people have been overrepresented on death row across the United States and that killers of black people are less likely to face the death penalty than people who kill white people. So even if you were right that black people kill white people more often, the fact that black people are given death, whereas compared to white people who kill black people are not, that is also systemic racism.
You're, dude, which once again, brings up the point that I started with, which is what was the crime and to what extent was the crime? The race does not play a role in that unless it does. You have to tell me what the crime was and to the extent of the crime, how heinous the crime was. That's what matters. I'll be right there, buddy. Okay.
But what you're not
I'm talking to
understanding,
Hunter. Okay.
what you're
Yes,
not
I'm talking to Hunter. I'll be Hunter Avallone. Remember? Yeah. Okay. I'm talking to him. I'll be right back. Okay. I swear. All right. Sorry
okay.
about that.
The thing
I'm a
is
sweet,
you're
sweet
making the
baby
same
boy.
argument we did before, where you said, "Oh, you said it's the same crime. Well, what if the crime is more heinous?" You then need to the logical conclusion of that claim is that black people are just on average committing more heinous crimes than white people. Do you think that that is true?
Absolutely.
So you think
I li-
you think black people on average are
I
just
used
committing
to
more
live
heinous crimes?
I used to live in the hood as soon as I could. I got the fuck out of there, okay? Because I swear to God, dude, I would rather get into a fight with a white guy than a black guy, and that's not because I could kick the shit out of a white guy.
It's
It's
because you're a
because
racist.
no, it's because when you fall down and you're unconscious, you will get your fucking head stomped in.
And you think only
And
black people do that?
my dad my dad told me, if somebody wants to take your Jordans and he's black, give them to him.
This is just
And
racism.
straight
You
up,
realize this is just racism, right?
no,
Yes,
it's
it is.
real life.
No,
Do you
it's
live in a
not.
black
Can I
neighborhood? Have
explain
you
why I
ever
don't
lived in
need
a
to live in a
black
black
neighborhood?
neighborhood to know that what you're saying is fucking racist? And I'll explain why.
No,
So hold on,
no,
please.
it's called
Please.
reality.
Okay. Okay, got it. However, you have to understand that when you are just assuming that black people entirely are more likely to commit a heinous crime compared to your own personal experience, what you are doing is using a personal experience to then extrapolate onto a broader group. And even more so, black people don't just commit crime or aren't more likely to commit crime because they're black. Environmental factors play a role in motivating criminal activity. So when you, based on your personal experience, extrapolate onto a group of people and ignore environment, then you're left with the conclusion that black people, because they're black, are more likely to commit more heinous crimes. And that is racism.
See, but you're only taking part of my argument, dude. Okay, I see a black man in a suit and tie and all that standing behind me at an ATM. I'm not going to be worried. I see, one of the hood motherfuckers from the street, you know, standing behind me
Wouldn't that be the
at the
same
ATM.
as wouldn't that be the same as if there was a white guy walking around with like ripped up jeans, had a fucking cigarette, he's walking around, he's got the backwards cap, pants hanging
Oh
down
God,
low.
you're goddamn right. You're absolutely
So
right.
then it doesn't have anything to do with black people. Then why did you say it was that black people were more likely to commit more heinous crimes?
I'm talking about the hood, dude. I'm talking about where I live. I'm talking about the majority of black people are.
How do
Hold on,
you
bud.
know? How do you know it's the
Wait,
majority
hold
of
on one
black
second.
people? You're
One second.
doing the thing right now.
What's up? Charger? Yeah, you can have my charger. 1 second, bud. There you go. I love you. All right. Sorry about that. All right. What are we talking?
I'm asking how you know that the majority are more likely to commit more heinous crimes. You're doing the racism thing.
Because it's disproportional in the statistics.
How do you
Okay.
know this?
And
What statistic is showing this?
the FBI crime statistics.
No, all that shows is that there's a disproportionate rate of crime amongst black communities. It doesn't say that black people are committing more heinous versions of crimes.
No, no, see, now you're conflating two different things. Okay. We're talking, prison sentencing things. And now we're talking about, what I'm talking about now is being, more afraid to have somebody behind me, this person versus this person.
On the
Okay.
basis, and that fear, whether or not you're more afraid is based on the race of the person behind you.
Now, would that be racist if
Yes.
you've been affected? No, you're not letting me answer. Would that be racist if I've been more affected violently by one race rather than the other?
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that it would
No,
be
answer that question.
I'm answering your question with a broader rhetorical question, okay? Do you think actually this doesn't even have to be rhetorical. I'd like to know what you'd have to say. Do you think it's warranted if a woman who has been raped says, "I no longer feel comfortable or safe around men. I think that men entirely are more likely to be rapey. I think that men are probably going to try and rape me, and I'm going to stay away from men. Anytime I pass a man or anytime I'm heading towards a man, I'm just going to walk in the opposite direction because I was victimized one time by a single man." Do you think that that's
No, but see,
justified
there's
logic?
there's so many variables to that too. You know, you're not taking to it.
This is analogous to what you just
No,
said.
see, we're conflating two different things. One is statistics, and now we're talking about life experience.
We're not
They're
talking
two
about statistics.
extremely
You
different
just
things.
said, you asked me a question, which was, am I wrong for being more, this wasn't verbatim. You said something like, am I wrong for being a little bit more afraid around black people because of my own personal experiences when I've been victimized by black people? Didn't
Yeah,
you? You just asked me something along those lines.
I just said that. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm giving you a direct analogy, which is if you think that's justified, then do you also think it is justified for a woman who has been raped to say that she no longer wants to be around men?
Okay, see, this is where it gets dicey, okay? Because when I talk about black people, I'm talking about a certain type of black people in the hood, okay? Like I said, if I have a well-dressed black man in a suit behind me while I'm pulling cash out of the ATM, no, I'm not nervous, okay? And same with, I'm sure I wouldn't know because I'm not a woman, but I'm sure with a woman, it would be a certain type of male
No,
that
that's the thing with
where
actually
it
is that
this
men,
certain
you never
thing
know who's the
happened to her
fucking
to make her
rapey
feel
guy.
that way.
Okay,
So I'm
so
sure
what you're
with a
saying then is
woman,
that you don't
if it
actually have
was
a
a
problem with
white
black
man,
people entirely.
if it
You
was a
ra-
white man that raped her, then it's probably going to be white men that she's more cautious to be around, you know? It
Yes,
wouldn't
but
be
the
all
problem
men,
is
I'm
okay,
sure.
wait.
It would
Even
be
if
a certain type of man.
yes, I understand that. But the problem is that you think that is justified. I don't. I don't think that if a woman was raped by a black guy, she can then say, I am no longer going to associate with any black men. If I see a black man, I will run away and call the police. I do not think that is
See, but then
warranted, even if
you're
even if there's reasoning behind it.
you're discounting like almost everything I said. You know, it's not like she's going to be afraid of all black men or whatever. It's going to be a certain type of black man.
What certain
So
type
therefore,
of
it's not
black man?
racist.
What are you getting at right now? What's the difference between a black man in the hood and a black man wearing a suit and tie behind you?
How they dress, their whole demeanor.
So what
You
you're
know,
talking about, would
maybe
you be
if it was
hold on? Would you be
if it was
equally
a
as
well,
afraid of a like poorly dressed, kind of looking like a member of the hood, whatever, white guy as well?
wait, what?
If you were concerned or worried around another person, right, who maybe they were dressing in a way that indicated they were part of the hood and possibly dangerous, would you still feel the same degree of fear if they were white instead of black?
Absolutely, but then you're just reinforcing my point
No, I'm
from
not.
the very beginning,
No, I'm
which
not.
is that there is no racism. Okay,
Okay. First of all, you're
you
demonstrating that
understand what I'm
racism.
saying?
No, you're demonstrating that
You're
racism is still
validating my
very
point
much alive,
completely.
okay? You have resurrected Lazarus from the grave. Only Lazarus is fucking racism, okay? So, no,
No,
what you're saying, shut the fuck up. What you're saying right now is that it's actually, you are nervous around people who appear more poor. What you're demonstrating to me right now is not necessarily a racial thing, but rather
it's
a
classism.
a classist thing. And so then we would have to
Well,
have the conversation as to, well, why are black people disproportionately in poverty? What do you know? We're back to my fucking point. Systemic racism. There's a reason why black people are disproportionately in poverty. And unless you're going to say they all just have the poor criminal gene, then obviously it's a result of some kind of environmental factor. And just to, lastly, you are still, what you've said beforehand was racist. Why wouldn't you just say, I'm uncomfortable around somebody who is dressed kind of looking like a possible dangerous person, and I don't care if they're black or white? You said you're more scared of black people, and that your dad specifically said you run away from black people because they'll bash your head in.
because it's has nothing to do with the environmental factors. It has to do with anecdotal evidence.
Wait,
Okay?
I think I'm not understanding what you're saying now. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What?
Because when you actually live in that area, which I'm sure you haven't, because your opinion would change drastically. Okay? And you could say, oh, well, black people are disproportionately poor and systemic racism, blah, 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 blah. Freaking, if you've actually lived there,
So why do you think
then
it's
you
so
would
bad in that area?
understand.
Why, well, okay, sure. Why do you think it's so bad there then? Why do you think that it's more dangerous? Why do you think there's more crime? Do you genuinely think there's no environmental factor?
Culture. It's culture.
Culture is an environmental factor.
How is it an environmental factor? You could have white people who embrace black culture who live, in the most, rich white neighborhoods. How is that environmental?
Okay, hold on. When I say environment, I mean like a social environment, right? I don't. Do you think when maybe I need to be more clear. When I say environment, I'm not talking about like the trees outside. I'm talking about your social environment that you grow up in. Does that make a little more sense?
That was not what you were implying before.
Do you think that I was genuinely implying that the trees and the grass and the rain has something to do with why there's more crime amongst black communities?
Absolutely, because that's what we were just talking about.
Oh my god. Okay, so you not only don't know what words mean, you're also like a fucking raging racist while saying you're not, while also saying racism isn't real while being
Oh
racist. I
God,
don't know how to argue with you.
come
This is
on,
why every conversation we have ends with
dude.
me
You
getting
have
super mad and then freaking the fuck out and then hanging up on you.
I, dude. Like, serious. Hey, dude, I love your show, dude. I always listen to
No,
you.
stop with this. There is no way. If
No,
you
no, but
wait, if you
what I'm
always
telling
listen to
you,
me, there is no
what
way in
what I'm
fucking
telling you,
stop. If you always
I'm
listen to me,
prefacing it.
no. If you
I'm
always listen to me,
prefacing it.
shh, Stop.
You're
If
you're gonna
you,
hang
oh,
up on me
shh,
because
no, I'm
you're
not going to
getting
hang up on you. I
owned.
just want you to shut the fuck up. If you have always listened to my show or listened to my show frequently, then my God, you understand that when I say environmental factors, I'm not talking about environment as far as the fucking trees. Why would I say that
Okay,
gender
well,
has an environmental factor? Do you think I mean like, oh yes, the trees emit with the fucking oxygen, also the gender? What?
dude.
I'm melting down right now. I'm getting so triggered.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Okay, I'm done now freaking out. Go ahead.
All right, what we were just talking about was where we live. I was talking anecdotal evidence. Where you live, obviously, there's going to be more black people. There's going to be in my case, more instances where there was violent crime from black people. That's what we were talking about. Our actual environment, our physical environment.
Right, like your general
So
social
what I
environment. And I
figured,
was asking you, why do you think? I'm not disputing that there's more crime in black communities. There is. That is a fact. I'm asking you, why do you think that is? Do you think that there's some kind of a social environment factor? Or do you think that it's something biological?
well, see, there's two topics that we're debating right now. Okay. One is systemic racism and the other is racism. So we keep conflating the two. And I think that's where the confusion lies between the argument that we're having is that we'll be arguing one point and it will have to do with the other type of racism
But no,
versus
can you
the
just
other one.
answer? Well, wait, I understand that that can be conflated a lot of the times, and that is a problem. But can you just answer my question? Why do you think there's higher rates of
And
crime in the black community? Do you think that it's because of a cultural or a social environment? I mean, history obviously can play a role there. Or do you think that there's something biological, something specific to black people that make it so that they are more likely to commit crime?
that is, dude, that is such a tough one. Like,
No, it's
I
not. The
honestly,
fact that it's a tough question for you is very, very concerning because if it's not a social environment factor,
no,
the only
but
alternative is that there is a biological predisposition amongst black people specifically that they're going to go out and commit violent crimes, which is race realism, a dumb fuck belief that's been disputed and debunked a million times and is only held now by racists.
I thought black people couldn't be racist.
Well, no, you're demonstrating right now that black people have just as much ability as everyone else to be racist.
Dude, it's such like certain things, certain arguments, you say it's such a nuanced topic. And when something like this is brought up, I think it's a very nuanced topic too.
It's not a
Like,
nuanced topic as to why people commit crime. And as far as is that reason for something external to the individual, or is it a biological thing? Why do you
okay,
think that
well, then
white
we
people
could
commit
go,
higher rates of crime when they too are in
well,
disproportionate
let's,
poverty or in disproportionate impoverished areas?
okay, well, we'll go back to culture. How about the black people that do get out of the hood and do end up moving into white neighborhoods are obviously committing less crime and all that. They've left the culture, the, quote unquote, black culture
But you're
and all
proving
that.
fine, but you're proving my point right now.
And how's
The f-
that?
because the environment changed and then the crime rate went down. That's what I'm getting at. Is that the reason there is disproportionate crime in the black community, in the hood, whatever you want to call it, is because of disproportionate poverty rates. That's why when you see
Okay,
less poverty, you see less crime. That's why white people commit the same amount of crime when they are living in impoverished areas as opposed to when they are not. There's not a
I thought
biological thing
you were
here.
just you were just talking about social environment though.
When I say environment, I'm still talking social environment.
Okay, but you were just talking about actual physical environment.
Wait, the No, the social environment can still be physical. Yes, if you physically leave a poor area and go to a physically wealthier area, there is going to be less crime. But that's still like a form of social environment. It's not like, again, the trees in the forest. That's not the type of environment I'm talking about.
That's exactly what you were just talking about.
Remember we already went over how I'm not talking about trees?
But you just did. You said, but when they leave that, then
So listen, environment is the surroundings or conditions in which a person, animal, or plant lives or operates. So you're thinking what I'm getting at is natural environment. Environment is just your general surroundings. My environment is living in the suburbs, going to fucking Target. Okay, that's part of my environment. And if that environment, the surrounding conditions around me change, then it has the potential to influence and change my behavior.
okay, but you're talking about, let's go back to, because this is just a fucking word jumble and all that. Let's go to the systemic racism thing.
I don't know if I want to get into this
Uh,
anymore. I think I might need to just take a break
all right, well,
because I I don't know if you're like being intentionally obtuse here, but I've never spoken to a person who doesn't have a general understanding of what I mean when I say the environment.
well, because you keep jumping back and forth between your definitions of it.
Wait, I said social environment to clarify that I'm not talking about a natural environment. And then when I just said environment, you then once again went back to, well, do you mean like the trees?
No, you said it, your physical environment. Then I said, wait, didn't you just say social environment? That's what I'm saying. This is just a fucking word jumble.
Okay.
Like,
All right, well,
but hey, I gotta get going, dude.
okay.
Once again, nice talking to you.
It was
I'll
not very
continue
nice talking to you,
donating.
but yeah, I'll see
I'll
you
like
later.
you. All right, fuck you.
Fuck you too, racist bitch. Jeez. Ugh. That's why, okay, as soon as I heard that guy's voice, I'm like, this is why I get mad at this person every time. Suddenly it all came back to me, okay?